The Holy See, Rome, has issued a statement and declared that the vaccines are morally and ethically acceptable.
Get the vaccine if you have to.
Get the vaccine if you have to. Get the vaccine if you have to.
Dr. Jeffress, there is so much talk these days about the vaccine. It's now available. What is your advice to Christians about whether to take it?
Well, you know, Lori, for the last 10 months, millions of Christians have been praying for healing, for relief from this pandemic. And I believe God brought about these vaccines. And for Christians not to take the vaccine on some manufactured faith reason, to me, it's like calling 911 when your house is on fire and then refusing to allow the firemen into your home. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. We shouldn't be surprised that God uses science many times to accomplish his purpose. I mean, when you look at the past, great scientists, men like Isaac Newton, Blaise Pascal, Louis Pasteur, these were not only men of science, they were men of strong faith who believed that God created this world and he was an orderly God who created it with order and laws that could be observed and learned from. We ought to welcome this as a gift from God.
What do you make of these conspiracy theories that are very prevalent on social media, particularly among Christians, that the vaccine is dangerous, that it could be contain the mark of the beast, and that there are so many unknowns, and we could find out later that the government has been using the vaccine to spy on us, and it could cause harm down the road, and there are so many Christians who have really gotten a hold of these ideas and perpetrating them and actually say that it's unchristian to get the vaccine.
Well, it's totally ridiculous. And I would just really warn Christians not to be subject to these conspiracy theories. We're to believe in truth. Satan is a liar. He's the father of all lies, Jesus himself said. And you know, these conspiracy theories, they really don't work when you carry them to their logical conclusion. You know, one pastor was saying that this vaccine is the mark of the beast. Well, it was developed under Donald Trump, and because of his great leadership, we got it as quickly as we did. So who does that make Donald Trump? I don't think most Christians want to say that he's the Antichrist. It's just really foolish, and I'm afraid that these conspiracy theories are going to deprive people of the gift of life. If we are really pro-life, like we claim to be, that means being pro-life not just for those inside the womb, but for those of us outside the womb. Always choose life.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that issue of life and abortion and whatnot, because we know that some of the vaccines do have some materials that were derived from cell lines from abortions, and there could be an issue there for pro-life people. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I do not know if that's an absolute fact. You are more educated in that than I am. But let's take it to the extreme and say it is true. You know, the fact is, God can use the death of somebody innocent, like an unborn child, to produce good. I mean, just look at what he did with his own son, Jesus Christ.
Just look at what he did with his own son, Jesus Christ.
Get the vaccine if you have to.
Get the vaccine if you have to. Get the vaccine if you have to.
So would you say, for people who are wondering, that the vaccines are part of God's plan?
Well, insofar as human knowledge is part of God's plan, yes. Whenever we can give good example to our people as public figures, as leaders in the community, we should do so. And then by the example of Pope Francis, Pope Benedict, I've had the vaccine. We're trying to tell our people, we want you to follow our good example.
Hey, we get vaccine. We go traveling. We had to get this yellow fever shot and some other things. Get the vaccine if you have to. If you don't want to, then leave certain professions.
According my trusted friend, including doctor, they suggest should take this injection. So, in order to prevent some serious problem, this injection, is very, very helpful, very good. So those other patient also should take this injection for greater benefit. So that's very important. So I took that. So I want to share. More people should have courage to take this injection.
Get the vaccine if you have to.
Get the vaccine if you have to. Get the vaccine if you have to.
This equation has four factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Get the vaccine if you have to.
Get the vaccine if you have to. Get the vaccine if you have to.